What happens when a knight of the British stage, calm, disciplined, legendary, walks onto a daytime talk show built on spontaneity, laughter, and sharp opinions, and finds himself face to face with one of the most fearless voices in American television? What happens when restraint meets provocation, when respect collides with raw honesty, and when two titans refuse to blink? Before we go any further, if you love cinematic celebrity moments like this, subscribe to Stage View right now, hit like, and drop a comment telling us what you think this moment is going to turn into, because what unfolds next is not what anyone in that studio expected. The lights of the studio glow warmer than usual that morning, washing over the curved desk of The View like a soft promise of civility. The audience is buzzing, not loud, not yet, just that low electric hum that says something important is about to happen. Producers move with purpose. Camera operators adjust focus. Someone offstage whispers, 30 seconds. Patrick Stewart sits backstage, hands folded loosely in his lap, posture impeccable. A tailored suit, understated tie. The kind of presence that doesn't need to announce itself. He has spent decades commanding rooms larger than this. Opera houses, Shakespearean stages, sci-fi universes where galaxies hang in the balance. Yet there is something about this moment that feels unpredictable. He exhales slowly. Across the studio floor, Whoopi Goldberg laughs at something Joy Behar has just said, her voice rich, familiar, grounding. She's at home here. This desk, these lights, this rhythm, she owns it in a way only time can buy. Her glasses catch the light as she turns toward the camera, her expression settling into that half-smile that signals she's ready for anything. Ladies and gentlemen, the warm-up announcer calls out. We're back in 5-4. Patrick rises as his cue approaches. A producer gestures toward the entrance. The applause swells as he steps out, and for a brief moment the room shifts. There's reverence in the clapping, respect. A standing ovation from a portion of the audience. Sir Patrick Stewart inclines his head slightly, acknowledging it, the corners of his mouth lifting just enough. Whoopi stands to greet him. Sir Patrick Stewart, she says, arms open. Welcome. They embrace briefly. Polite. Professional. But as they separate, there's a flicker, something unreadable, passing between them. A shared awareness that this isn't just another promotional stop. They sit. The introductions roll smoothly. Shakespeare. Star Trek. X-Men. Advocacy. Decades of influence. Patrick speaks with practiced grace, his voice measured, each word placed carefully, like lines rehearsed over a lifetime. The audience is with him. Nods. Smiles. Even Whoopi listens intently, chin resting on her hand. And then the conversation shifts. It's subtle at first. A question about responsibility. About public figures. About words and consequences. Whoopi leans forward slightly. You've always been very vocal about dignity, she says. About respect, especially in how we talk to each other. But some people feel that sometimes in defending certain traditions, you end up dismissing how others experience harm. The air changes. Patrick doesn't answer immediately. He looks at her, really looks. Not confrontational. Curious. Careful. I don't believe in dismissing harm, he says finally. I believe in context. In conversation. In not assuming malice where there is ignorance. A murmur ripples through the audience. Whoopi's smile fades, just a fraction. But ignorance still hurts, she replies. And when you're in a position like yours, that hurt carries weight. Patrick straightens. His voice remains calm, but something firm settles underneath it, like steel beneath velvet. And when we stop allowing people to learn, he says, we replace dialogue with judgment. Joy Behar interjects lightly, trying to ease the tension. Okay, we're getting deep early, she jokes. A few laughs break out, but Whoopi doesn't lean back. She keeps her eyes on Patrick. Here's the thing, she says. For a lot of people watching, this isn't theoretical. It's their lives, their families. When someone with authority says, let's slow down, let's consider tradition, it can sound like, wait your turn. And some folks have been waiting their whole lives. The studio is quiet now. No laughter. Even the cameras seem to hold still. Patrick's jaw tightens, just slightly. He nods once, acknowledging the point, but when he speaks, there's a new edge. I come from a world, he says, where language matters profoundly, where meaning is not improvised but earned. I worry that in our haste to correct, we sometimes erase nuance. And nuance is where humanity lives. A few audience members clap. Not many, but enough to be heard. Whoopi raises an eyebrow. Nuance is a luxury, she says. Safety isn't. That lands. Patrick pauses. You can see it. This is no longer a prepared interview. This is instinct versus instinct. Belief versus belief. With respect, he replies, the words precise. Safety without understanding becomes fear. And fear has never led us anywhere good. The audience reacts, some applause, some audible disagreement. A low MMM from somewhere in the seats. Sunny Hostin shifts uncomfortably. I think what Whoopi's saying. But Patrick continues, not loudly, not aggressively, yet unmistakably in command. I have spent my life fighting intolerance. On stages, on screens, in real life. I will not be told that advocating for dialogue makes me an enemy. The word hangs there. Enemy. Whoopi inhales, slow and deep. When she speaks, her voice is steady, but there's heat behind it now. No one called you an enemy, she says. But intention doesn't erase impact. And when people say, let's just talk, sometimes what they mean is, let's delay change. A ripple of applause swells, stronger this time. Patrick turns slightly toward the audience, then back to Whoopi. His eyes are sharp now, alive with something more than polite debate. And when we shut down conversation, he counters, we risk becoming exactly what we oppose. The tension is unmistakable. You can feel it through the screen. The kind that makes viewers lean closer, forget to blink, forget they're watching a daytime talk show and not a courtroom drama or a climactic scene from a film. The director signals for a commercial break. Okay, Joy says quickly, forcing a smile. We're going to take a quick break. Everyone deep breaths. The applause is scattered, uncertain. As the cameras pull back, Whoopi removes her glasses, rubbing the bridge of her nose. Patrick sits perfectly still, hands clasped, gaze forward. Around them, the hosts exchange glances. Producers whisper urgently from the sidelines. The audience buzzes now louder than before. People lean toward each other, whispering. Phones discreetly slip out of pockets. Something has been set in motion. And when we come back, it's no longer just a conversation. The red on-air light flickers off, and the studio exhales, but only on the surface. The tension doesn't leave with the cameras. It lingers thick and uncomfortable, like smoke after a spark. Whoopi leans back in her chair, eyes forward, lips pressed together. Patrick Stewart doesn't move at all. He stares straight ahead, jaw set, hands folded with almost military precision. The applause sign is dark now, useless. No one knows whether to clap, whisper, or stay perfectly still. A producer's voice cuts through the quiet. 2 minutes, she says, low but urgent. We're coming back hot. Hot is an understatement. Joy Behar leans toward Whoopi, murmuring something meant to soften the edge. But Whoopi doesn't respond. Sunny Hostin flips through her notes, then closes them. Whatever was planned next is already obsolete. Patrick finally shifts. He adjusts his cuff, a small, controlled movement. But those closest to him catch the subtle tremor in his fingers. Not fear. Restraint. The kind that comes from holding back decades of conviction. Whoopi glances at him sideways. Not hostile. Not friendly either. Assessing. You okay? She asks quietly, just loud enough for him to hear. Patrick turns to her, surprised by the question. I'm quite all right, he says. Then, softer. I suspect the same cannot be said for the conversation. Whoopi exhales through her nose. This is what conversations look like sometimes. The producer returns, crouching slightly between them. We're live in 10. Let's keep it respectful. Passion's fine. No talking over each other. Whoopi nods once. Patrick inclines his head. 5-4. The red light snaps back on. And we're back, Joy says brightly, her tone doing heavy lifting. So, before the break, things got passionate. A nervous laugh ripples through the audience. Whoopi doesn't smile. She turns directly to Patrick. I want to be clear, she says, because I don't like dancing around things. Nobody here is questioning your history or your intent. What I'm saying is that when people in power frame conversations around patience and dialogue, the people suffering right now don't hear hope. They hear delay. Patrick listens without interruption. When she finishes, he nods slowly. May I respond? He asks. Whoopi gestures with an open palm. Please. Patrick leans forward for the first time. Not aggressively, but deliberately. His voice lowers, gains weight. I grew up in a home where violence was real, he says. Where power was misused daily. I learned very early that force, verbal or otherwise, can silence, but it does not persuade. And I believe persuasion is how societies change. The studio is silent. Even the audience's shifting stops. Whoopi's eyes soften. Just a touch, but she doesn't let go. And I grew up watching people be polite while injustice stayed right where it was, she replies. I watched folks tell my parents to wait, to be reasonable, to not rock the boat. And that boat stayed real comfortable for everyone except us. A wave of applause rolls through the seats, louder now. Patrick absorbs it. When it fades, he speaks again, measured but unyielding. Then perhaps, he says, the real challenge is ensuring that dialogue is not used as an excuse, but neither is outrage used as a weapon. That word again. Weapon. A murmur spreads. Someone in the audience shakes their head. Another claps sharply. Sunny Hostin jumps in, voice calm but firm. But anger isn't a weapon when it's a response to harm. It's a signal. Patrick turns to her. I agree, he says. But signals are meant to be interpreted, not to replace the message entirely. Whoopi lifts her chin. And what if people are done explaining? Patrick doesn't hesitate. Then we risk creating a world where only those with the loudest voices are heard. That lands hard. Joy tries again to lighten the mood. Okay, philosophers, let's. But Whoopi cuts in, her voice sharper now. This isn't philosophy. This is survival. The word echoes. Survival. Patrick's composure finally cracks, not explosively but visibly. His brow furrows. His voice rises just enough to register emotion. And survival, he says, also depends on not turning against one another in pursuit of justice. The audience splits. Applause and dissent collide, overlapping, chaotic. The control room scrambles, adjusting sound levels. Whoopi sits back, folding her arms, not defensively, but decisively. So what you're saying, she says slowly, is that people fighting for their lives need to be careful how uncomfortable they make everyone else. Patrick stiffens. That is not what I said. But that's how it sounds to them, she fires back. And if you don't hear that, that's part of the problem. For a moment, neither of them speaks. The silence is louder than any argument so far. Patrick looks at Whoopi, really looks at her now. Not as a host, not as an opponent, as a woman who has carried history on her shoulders and refused to be quiet about it. His voice drops. Then help me understand, he says. Because I am listening. A few gasps. Someone whispers, whoa. Whoopi blinks. The shift catches her off guard. The challenge in his tone has softened into something else, something closer to invitation. She uncrosses her arms. Understanding, she says, starts with believing people when they say they're hurt, even if you don't feel it yourself. Patrick nods slowly. I do believe them. Then trust their anger, she replies. Not as an attack, but as a truth. The audience erupts in applause, sustained this time. Patrick takes it in, eyes glistening under the lights. When it dies down, he speaks again, quieter. I can accept anger, he says. What I struggle with is erasure. When people are reduced to villains for asking questions. Whoopi tilts her head. Questions are fine, but timing matters. Joy finally lets out a breath. Okay. I feel like we're getting somewhere. A few laughs break the tension, but it's fragile. The director signals again, wrap it up. As the segment nears its end, the energy has shifted, but the heat remains. This isn't resolved. It's exposed. Whoopi turns to the camera. This is why we have these conversations, she says. They're messy. They're uncomfortable. But they're real. Patrick nods. And necessary. The cameras pull back. The applause this time is loud, but conflicted. Some people stand. Others stay seated, arms crossed, deep in thought. As the red light clicks off once more, the studio erupts into overlapping chatter. Producers rush in. Assistants whisper updates. Twitter is exploding. Clips are already circulating. Headlines are being drafted in real time. Patrick rises from his chair. Whoopi stands too. For a heartbeat, they face each other. Two icons, neither victorious, neither defeated. Whoopi extends her hand. No hard feelings. Patrick takes it. None at all. But as they release, the look they share says something unspoken. This isn't over. Not by a long shot. The studio doesn't settle after the cameras stop rolling. If anything, it grows louder, voices overlapping, footsteps quick, phones already glowing in people's hands. The spell of live television has broken, and now reality rushes in, messy and unfiltered. Patrick Stewart steps away from the desk, jacket buttoned, spine straight, but his face gives him away now. The calm authority is still there, but beneath it runs a current of exhaustion. Not physical, emotional. The kind that comes from realizing you've stepped into something far bigger than a single conversation. Whoopi remains seated for a moment, staring at the tabletop like it might offer answers. Joy leans toward her again. "You okay?" she asks, this time louder, not caring who hears. Whoopi nods slowly. "Yeah," she says. "I just hate when people think this stuff is theoretical." Patrick pauses a few steps away. He hears it. He turns back. "It isn't," he says quietly. "Not to me." Whoopi looks up. Their eyes meet again. No cameras now, no red lights, no audience cues telling them when to react. Just two people who have both survived long careers by learning when to speak and when to listen. A producer clears her throat. "Sir Patrick, we can escort you out through the side exit if you'd like. It's getting busy out there." Busy is polite. Through the studio doors, raised voices drift in. Staff members cluster around monitors, replaying the segment on a loop. Someone says, "It's already trending." Someone else mutters, "This is going to be everywhere by noon." Patrick nods once. "I'll take the side exit," he says. Then he hesitates. But first, he looks at Whoopi again. "If you're willing," he says, "I'd like to continue this conversation. Off camera." The room stills. Whoopi studies him, her expression guarded, searching for condescension, for defensiveness, for anything that would make the offer hollow. She finds none. Just seriousness. And something else. Vulnerability, maybe. "Not today," she says honestly. "But maybe." Patrick accepts that without argument. "Fair enough." As he turns to leave, Sunny speaks up. "For what it's worth," she says, "this mattered." He nods to her too. "That's my hope." The side hallway is narrow, dimmer, far removed from the polished energy of the main set. As Patrick walks, an assistant presses a phone into his hand. "Your publicist," she whispers. "They say you should see this." On the screen, a flood of notifications scrolls endlessly. Clips. Comments. Headlines already forming in real time. Patrick Stewart shuts down Whoopi Goldberg on The View? No, Whoopi Goldberg schools Patrick Stewart live on air. A clash of titans, daytime TV erupts. Was Sir Patrick Stewart out of touch or courageous? He exhales slowly. This is the danger of moments like this, he knows. Not the disagreement, but the reduction. The way complexity gets shaved down into sides, slogans, winners and losers. Outside, a small crowd has gathered, fans, paparazzi, a few protesters who weren't here this morning, but somehow arrived anyway. Someone shouts his name. Another yells a question. A third boos. Patrick steps into the car without comment, the door closing with a solid, final thud. Back inside the studio, Whoopi finally stands. She slips her glasses back on, the familiar armor settling into place. A junior producer approaches hesitantly. "Whoopi, social's going crazy. People are saying you were too harsh. Others are calling you a hero." Whoopi lets out a short laugh. "That sounds about right." Joy joins them, shaking her head. "I've been doing this a long time," she says. "That one's gonna have legs." Whoopi looks toward the empty chair where Patrick Saturday. "I didn't want to fight him," she says quietly. "I wanted him to hear me." "And did he?" Sunny asks. Whoopi considers that. "I think he did. I just don't know if everyone else did." In the control room, producers are already planning. Do they address it tomorrow? Do they bring him back? Do they book someone to respond? The machine moves fast when controversy feeds it. Across the city, Patrick sits in the back of the car, watching buildings blur past. His phone buzzes again. A message from a longtime friend. "You okay?" He types back slowly. "I'm thinking." Another buzz. This one from his publicist, more urgent. "We need to get ahead of this." Statement. Apology? Clarification? Patrick stares at the words. Apology. Clarification. He knows the ritual. He's seen it consume others. Say the wrong thing too fast and you feed the fire. Say nothing, and silence becomes its own accusation. He locks the phone. Later that afternoon, the clip explodes online. Edited versions appear within minutes, some cutting out his softer moments, others isolating Whoopi's sharpest lines. Reaction videos multiply. Comment sections turn into battlegrounds. He talked over her. She didn't let him finish. He was calm and respectful. She spoke truth to power. He's out of touch. She's too angry. The same moment, fractured into 1,000 interpretations. Whoopi watches one clip from her office, then turns it off. "That's not what it felt like," she mutters. Patrick, at home now, sits alone in his study, surrounded by books, Shakespeare, history, philosophy. Words he has trusted his entire life. He pours a glass of water, hand still steady, but his mind races. He replays the moment she said survival. He hadn't prepared for that word. It had cut through theory, through rhetoric, straight to the bone. Across the Atlantic, British media weighs in with a different tone. Sir Patrick Stewart brings old-world civility to American culture wars. Some praise him. Others criticize him for misreading the room. American late-night shows tease the clash. Memes circulate, some respectful, some cruel. And at the center of it all are two people who never intended to become symbols that morning. That evening, Whoopi posts a short message on social media. No hashtags. No spin. Conversations are hard. Silence is harder. The response is immediate and overwhelming. An hour later, Patrick drafts a statement. He deletes it. Drafts another. Deletes that too. Finally, he writes something simpler. I believe in listening. Today reminded me how much more there is to hear. He posts it without comments attached. The internet does what it always does, argues about what it means. But beneath the noise, something quieter begins to happen. Essays. Thoughtful threads. People sharing personal stories, connecting anger to fear, fear to hope. Not everyone. Not even most. But enough. And somewhere between outrage and reflection, the moment starts to shift, from a spectacle into a question. Not who won, but what was revealed. Because the truth is, no one walked away untouched. Not Patrick Stewart, who was forced to confront how his words land beyond his intentions. Not Whoopi Goldberg, who felt once again the weight of having to explain pain that never really goes away. Not the audience, in the room or at home, who saw civility crack and honesty spill out underneath. The stage lights have gone dark now. But the conversation? It's only getting louder. By the next morning, the moment has taken on a life of its own. Morning shows replay it with furrowed brows and cautious language. News tickers crawl beneath frozen frames of Patrick Stewart mid-sentence, Whoopi Goldberg leaning forward, eyes locked, unflinching. Radio hosts argue over it on the drive to work. Podcasts rush out emergency episodes. University professors assign it as discussion material before lunchtime. The audience from that studio, those people who sat just feet away from history in the making, wake up to find themselves tagged in clips, quoted in threads, interviewed on sidewalks outside their offices. One woman tells a reporter, I thought I was coming to see a nice interview. I didn't know I was going to feel something. That sentence spreads almost as fast as the argument itself. Outside the studio, a small group gathers again. Some hold signs defending Whoopi. Others praise Patrick. A few hold nothing at all, just phones, filming the others filming them. The spectacle feeds itself. Inside the View's production offices, the mood is tense but focused. Ratings from the previous day are staggering. Higher than they've been in weeks. Higher than expected. No one celebrates. Not openly. Whoopi arrives early. No sunglasses today. No jokes with staff. She nods, says good morning, heads straight to her dressing room. On the mirror, someone has taped a note from a crew member. Thank you for saying what needed to be said. She reads it once. Then again. She doesn't smile, but she keeps it. In London, Patrick Stewart wakes to a different kind of noise. Newspapers on his doorstep. Headlines less sensational, more restrained, but no less sharp. He reads one article carefully, all the way through, then folds the paper with deliberate care. Later that day, he records a short interview with the BBC. Calm. Thoughtful. No defensiveness. I don't believe the conversation failed, he says. I believe it revealed how much work remains. The clip circulates widely. Some critics soften. Others double down. Online, the debate evolves. What started as who was right turns into why did this hit so hard? Comment sections shift from insults to stories. People talk about being talked over, about being afraid to speak, about being tired of explaining, about being scared of saying the wrong thing and losing everything. A college student tweets, I don't agree with Patrick Stewart, but I heard him listening at the end. That matters. It gets shared thousands of times. Another replies, I don't need people to listen politely. I need change. That gets shared just as much. The divide doesn't close, but it becomes visible in a new way. Whoopi addresses it on the show 2 days later. No guest. No debate. Just her. I'm not interested in winning arguments, she says, looking straight into the camera. I'm interested in people surviving long enough to have them. The studio audience applauds. This time, it's unified. Patrick watches the clip later that evening. He doesn't comment publicly. He doesn't need to. He pours himself a cup of tea and sits quietly, letting the words settle. Weeks pass. The moment doesn't disappear, it crystallizes. It becomes shorthand. Like that Stewart Goldberg moment, people say in meetings, classrooms, living rooms. A reference point for when civility cracks but honesty breaks through. Eventually, a photo circulates. It's grainy, taken by someone across a small cafe table. Patrick Stewart and Whoopi Goldberg. No cameras, no makeup, no audience, just coffee cups between them, leaning in, talking. No one knows what was said. And that mystery somehow feels right, because the aftermath was never about a winner. It was about friction, about what happens when two people refuse to perform agreement and instead risk being real in front of millions. The audience reaction lingers, not as applause or boos, but as reflection. And the media fallout? It keeps echoing, not because it was explosive, but because it was human. Now it's your turn. What do you think really happened in that moment? Was it a clash or a necessary collision? Did anyone change their mind? Or did it simply force us to look harder at our own? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about it, really talk. And if you want more explosive, cinematic, behind-the-scenes stories like this, make sure you subscribe to Stage View right now. Hit like, share this with someone who loves real, unfiltered celebrity moments, and stay with us. Because on this stage, the real drama never ends. Performing arts.